Welcome to the Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen podcast. I am your host and the original Christian Drama Queen, Lisa Schaefer, and I'm glad that you are here. I can promise you that I know what it's like to think like a lover of Jesus, but live like a hot mess every day. And if you can relate to that, listen, you're in the right place, because everything from the craziness of homeschooling my kids for 25 years to overcoming deep wounds of abandonment and abuse as a child, I want you to stay with me, sister, because I've walked down all of those paths and a lot more, and I've got decades of healing and hope to share with you. So here we go. Well, this is fun. I never do this. I never do a live podcast, not on YouTube. I never do a live podcast on Facebook. Now I do lives. You know, some of you guys have joined me before on Facebook. You've actually, participated with me and left comments and that sort of thing. And it's not that I don't love it. I love going live. You guys need to share this. Okay. Right now, go over there on the screen and down where it says share, and share the link so we can get a few more people. I want to talk about this. I feel like this is a topic that has burdened me for years, for literally years. And so I guess I want some feedback. I want to know what other people are thinking about this idea and what the Bible says about this. Okay. So, many years ago, when my kids were much younger, I would say, I think the oldest was probably in his early 20s at the time. And he had friends that were in their early 20s. I guess his sister would have probably been 17, 18. And then the youngest one probably about then was 14 or 15. And they were young. They were very young. And they had some friends who would go onto their social media, whether it was Facebook or LinkedIn. Well, they weren't on LinkedIn probably when they were teenagers, because they didn't have businesses. Most of the time, LinkedIn is for business folks. But they would go onto their Instagrams and their Snappy Chats and whatever else other crap is out there to post things on. And they would go out there and they would say things about their family. They would talk about how unloved they felt by their family because, they got grounded, or they got the car taken away from them, or maybe mom and dad held them accountable because they didn't come home on time for curfew or something. It was always something. And the comment was made this one time by this one person who was not related to me, but I knew his family quite well, still do. Knew his family quite well. He made the comment about a comment about his family and about how they were just the worst family in the history of families. They were the worst people ever. Worst family ever. And I can remember, I remember him making a long list of things that families should not do. Families don't do this. Families don't do that. Families don't make their children feel unloved or unwanted or unappreciated or disrespected. That was a big word. Hey, disrespect is a big word to throw around. That's a very common big word to throw around. And in this particular situation, I really took great offense to for his parents. I took offense for his family. He was tossing around this word family. The family, my family does this to me and does that to me and treats me like this and blah, blah, blah. And I just wanted to go, dude, if you are not being raised naked in a cage, being fed through the holes or poked out with a sharp stick, why be so ungrateful? Why be so ungrateful? The concept of family is something that people like to act like they know a lot about, but they don't apply the same standard of what they want their family to do to them. They don't do that same thing to others. Um, families do not purposely set up other loved ones purposely to fail. When you have loved ones in your life that you care about, we don't purposely set them up to fail. That would not be a very nice family thing to do, right? Um, if you are when you have family, when you have loved ones that you call family, you don't set them up to fail. You don't manipulate them to do what you want them to do by lying to them. We don't deceive loved ones that we call family by lying to them in order to manipulate and get what we want. That's not really not very family friendly. It's not really behaving like family. Family does not stick their loved ones' dirty laundry out there on social media. We don't get on social media and say, my sister this, my brother that, my cousin this, my mom that, my daughter that. We don't get on social media and blast and even I think even saying my family does dot dot dot. This is my family's dirty laundry and filling in the blanks. Even if you aren't specific with names, even if you aren't specific with relationships, but you're sharing how dissatisfied you are with that family member and you're sharing their dirty laundry, which is not really yours to share. That doesn't seem like a very loving family kind of thing to do either. Family doesn't go to some of the family with one story about the other part of the family and stir things up. We Real family doesn't do that. Real family, um, I think that there's a real lack of authenticity sometimes in our relationships with family. We will be a certain way with some parts of the family and a different way with other parts of the family. And then we will use the relationships that are stressed to create strife for other members of the family with those same strife filled relationships. That's not family doesn't really do that. Loved ones, when you love your family, you don't really do that. You don't really do that. Family does not, um, family does not think the worst of family. You know, we ought to think the most positive, think the best, hope the best for people that we claim are our family and assume the best instead of trying to assume the worst. Now, that doesn't mean that family doesn't hurt us. Family does hurt us. Uh, it happens. Even when people don't mean to be hurtful, it happens. We I can think I know for me, I'm just telling my story. Okay, so I'm going to tell you my something I've done as someone who, claims to be family. I have not thought about the way my actions were affecting other people in my family. I have not on purpose, just being kind of self-absorbed. I I didn't think necessarily about how my behavior was going to impact my family members. And really that's a maturity issue, right? We don't always think about that before we act, before we do something. And when we do make a mistake and we hurt family because we weren't thinking about what our actions would do to them, don't you think it's important that we go to them and say, man, because you're family, I want you to know I made a mistake. I didn't realize I was wrong. I wasn't trying to be hurtful, but I probably was careless or I probably wasn't thoughtful. Maybe I was thoughtless. Maybe I was very self-absorbed. I mean, come on, let's just be honest, and this is the problem. I think a lot of people don't wanna be honest about the fact that they're a screw up. We don't want to admit to the fact that we might be selfish, that we might only be thinking of ourselves. Um, in my case, most recently, um, something is impacting other members of my family, but not me in the same way. And I'm not very good sometimes at empathy the way I'd like to be. I'd like to be more empathetic and understanding and compassionate, and I don't always come across that way. And it's not because I don't want to, it's because my mind didn't get there. My heart knows it ought to be there, but my mind didn't necessarily get there. And so family dynamics, especially when there's a lot of dysfunction, there's a lot of abandonment to deal with, there's a lot of brokenheartedness to deal with, there's abuse in the past, there's been things that have been painful and hurtful. There might be legal issues to deal with. There might just be really bad choices that impacted other people in the family. And there's all this dysfunction. We can't make it stop by continuing to act dysfunctionally. We cannot make the dysfunction stop by continuing to be manipulative or lying or dragging people into our pain and suffering. We can't make it. The only, and I remember a pastor telling me one time, the circle of offense is as far as you need to go when it comes to the circle of forgiveness. So, so when someone has come to me and hurt me in my family, taking that pain to other members to make sure they all know how hurt I am probably doesn't help me, and it doesn't work for restoration. There's not restoration that comes from that. There's not rehabilitation and real genuine relationship growth that comes from that. We just go out and kind of throw up our pain and suffering to everybody around us. And this is what I feel like this kid was doing years ago on Facebook when he was torching his family because they had done something to discipline him. And he just blasted his family on Facebook. And I don't, and of course, years later, he's probably deleted it. I don't know. But there was, that was, if you're, if you don't like the pain and the suffering that comes from being dysfunctional or living in a dysfunctional situation, you're probably not going to help yourself by spreading the dysfunction around. You need to go to the person that hurt you and say, you know what, this hurt me. Um, and, and see if you can't rebuild, see if you can't find a place of healing. I looked up some verses on family. Okay. So one of the verses that stuck out to me was 1 Timothy 5:8. And it says, "But if anyone does not provide for his own, and especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever." Now, that is talking about, honestly, that is talking about financial security for the family. If somebody doesn't take care of his family, he's, he's not doing well. He's dishonored God. He's dishonored people. It's worse than being an unbeliever. But how much should we also ought to provide emotionally and spiritually to our family? How much grace should we give to people that we're supposed to love? We're supposed to say we love. We say we love them. I have family members that come to me and say, "I love you," and their actions speak much louder than their words. And maybe you've been that way too. My daughter, when she was very young, all of her little friends, they were 10, 11, 12, 13. They'd be talking on the phone, and every single time they talked to each other, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." They barely knew each other. But they threw that word around just because it felt good to say. How much greater might it be if if what we're going through is genuine love, is genuine compassion and sympathy and honesty and authenticity, instead of having to worry if the person who says they love us is going to stab us in the back with somebody else tomorrow that's in the family. How much more might we grow as a family if we're authentic with one another about our pain and we're not trying to just get something out of the relationship. And I feel like in this particular verse in First Timothy, where Paul is saying, you know what? You need to provide for your family. Maybe it's not just money we're talking about here. Maybe we need to provide grace and authenticity and honesty and truth and forgiveness and really say what we really feel in a way that's not damaging. Maybe not manipulate a situation so we can try and be in charge of it and control it, but to just be honest about what we'd like to see happen. If you want me to perform in a certain way as your family member or your loved one, you can come to me and say, "I was kind of hoping you would do this, and here's why." And then I can tell you, "Well, here's why I didn't do that, and here's why." Maybe, maybe that would be a way for families who have dealt with dysfunction to maybe not live so dysfunctionally. Maybe it's a way for us to live more honestly and live more um, authentically and truthfully. You get to grow from that. You get to grow from that instead of living in dysfunction. And am I crazy? Am I just asking for too much? Am I maybe a little bit naive about thinking that most people in most families want genuine relationships where we're honest and we're really open and we're really loving and we're not trying to just manipulate one another, or we're not trying to blast other family members because then it'll make us look better. You get on Facebook and you blast family members, and I'll tell you right now, this drives me nuts. And this is not just family that does this. Everybody does this. They get on Facebook and they talk about um, how much they know the real people that love them are gonna respond to this, whatever post it is. Well, I'll know who really loves me because they'll respond to this. Don't test me. Don't test me. Don't say, I know you'll respond because you really love me. Because what that does is make me go, don't test me. Don't test me. That's not how you should try and get real affection and real love and real family. That's not where you get it from posting things online that say, oh, poor me, nobody loves me. If you feel like someone that you love has acted in an unloving way and you're supposed to be family, why don't you go to them and talk about it instead of blasting it all over Facebook and Snapchat? And I'll tell you what's sneaky about Snapchat. Y'all post stuff on Snapchat because you know it'll disappear, right? If you got something to say to me, by all means, if you know I love you and you know I love you, then come talk to me about that. And if you're trying to build family dynamics that are functional, that are genuine relationships, that are gifts from God, where you care for one another and you care for what other people are going through, if you really want that, then stop living the same dysfunctional crud over and over and over again. Because it's not making the family more functional. It's not making the relationships any better. And one last thing, and then we're going to go, because this is that's a Facebook live podcast, which I don't do very often. But I thought I'll just try this technology out and see what happens. Because I've got it. I've got this technology. I want to see what happens. The last thing I would say is don't assume that you're the only victim in the family. Don't assume that your victimization has been worse than anybody else's. And in fact, invest in helping other victims in your family circles heal. Invest in their pain and suffering with love and compassion, and grace instead of just focusing on your own. Because listen, when I focus on someone else's need and how I can help them with that need, I don't think so much about my own. Focusing on their need and ministering to other people's needs is a great way to eliminate depression in your own life. Because you're not focusing on all that you're not getting out of life or all of the pain that you've experienced in life. You're not focusing on all of the want that you have and the fact that you were mistreated or abused or abandoned, which I have been. You don't focus on that. You focus on someone else's pain and suffering and how you can bring healing and help to them. And I guarantee you, the depression that you have because of your own past or your own pain or your own suffering will shrink. It will shrink. It will disappear virtually. When I focus on someone else and their needs, I don't remember my own pain so much because my mind can only dwell on one thing at a time. If I dwell on their suffering and how I can help, all of a sudden mine seems really small. And I think more families would benefit from circling the wagons around people who are hurting instead of other people who are hurting, instead of circling the wagons around themselves. For those of you who do not know, this falls right in line with my Bible study, Discarded. I'm doing workshops now with people who want to walk through the study. It's called Discarded, A Daughter's Journey to Reclaim Freedom and Forgive the Father Who Left Her Behind. The big focus of that is forgiveness. It's not so much about my father, near as much as it is about God's ability to help us forgive. And so that is available on Amazon, but I want you to go to freedom.christiandramaqueen.com if you want free resources or you want to visit with me about that. That's freedom.christiandramaqueen.com. Also, you can find this podcast on my YouTube channel because it just went up. It's live. But I also will download this live podcast, edit it, make it a little shorter, and I will post it in my podcasts. Every Friday, there's a new podcast, Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen. And, you can talk to me back and forth about this, right? I want to hear from you. I want to, am I crazy? Am I just, are you picking up what I'm putting down, or am I putting down something nobody wants? Which is quite possible. I just want to focus, I guess, and remind people that God wants us to focus on finding a way to forgive. And it's hard. It's not easy. I built a 12-week study on forgiveness. That tells you right there, it's not something you can just do. Sometimes it takes work. And it's not easy. It's not easy work. The women I'm working through, the workshop we're doing right now, the Freedom Through Forgiveness workshop we're doing right now, it's painful. We're going through lesson 4 and it's just painful. It's just work. We have felt unloved and unwanted and uncherished and undesirable. We've been unclean. We felt unseen. We've been unhealthy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there. And finding out how God feels about those things is really important. So I touch on those topics on Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen. And of course, like I said, go to freedom.christiandramaqueen.com and you can get free resources and a lot of my writings where we talk about these things. And we kind of develop some relationship around the fact that God wants to give us freedom. We want to break the bondage of bitterness and have real freedom. All right, that's going to do it for me today. And listen, I love you. And I guess that's going to do it for me today, guys. Thanks for joining me today on the Chronicles of the Christian Drama Queen podcast. I am your host, Lisa Schaefer. There are lots of ways to find me on social media. Of course, I'm on Facebook, and I'm also available on YouTube. I have my own YouTube channel. It's called Christian Drama Queen. You can go check out the videos of these podcasts right there on that YouTube channel. There's a website that you can go to just find out a little bit more about me. It's christiandramaqueen.com, and you can always email me, same place, Lisa@christiandramaqueen.com. Don't forget to share me sharing with a friend, guys. Like me, shoot me some hearts, fill out those comments, make sure that you've given me a rating or a review of some sort, because listen, the only way that other people find out we're here is for you to let them know that I'm here. And listen, we not only appreciate that, we really believe that God's going to use it. And you know I love you.